My name is Musonga Mbogo, and you're watching Bound. I'm Musonga Mbogo, and I'm a visual artist based in Canberra, Australia. My father's from Tanzania, and my mother's from Zimbabwe. It's crazy because I was born in Singapore. About 2 years old was the first time I moved to Australia. So it's been quite an interesting journey because like most of my memories in life have been growing up in Australia. I think it started originally seeing my mom. She was a painter and she does a lot of painting in her spare time. And just watching her paint really inspired me. But I think I started drawing most in primary school when like I was just watching cartoons. So things like, you know, there were animes like Dragon Ball Z on TV and just drawing those characters and like Pokemon and that kind of thing nurtured its own creativity from that age, and it's something I've continued to do even up until now. It's always been good with creative expression. I think it's even her, to be fair, like my uncles and aunties, like they make music and photography and like they're all just very creative, and I know for her like that must have been a huge influence and driving force for her. Yeah, it's really cool that I got to experience that too, because I think me being around something creative inspired me to be a creative person. The year I finished high school, so I think that was like 2016, and I just wanted to do something like unique or creative, and my first instinct was like music, but then everyone just does music, like either producing or doing vocals or like rapping or singing. And then I was just like, what's a field that I don't really see anyone that looks like us exploring, or that is relatively untouched, like for African Australian. I was just trying to think of spaces where we just didn't feel welcomed at the time, or like we weren't really engaged or really embraced. And I was like, okay, there's visual art, and that's something I've always enjoyed doing. I've always enjoyed making things, and I've always just enjoyed talking about the people around me and our stories. And to be able to do that in spaces where that hasn't really been done before, that was just really exciting to me. And yeah, it's weird, like I picked it up, kind of just jumped into it, and it's still going and it's still working, so. The first time I'd ever worked on like a large scale, so it was like 2 meters by like, I think 1.8. And it was one of those few paintings that when I made it, like I didn't want to change anything. I was like, oh, everything here is perfect. Everything here makes sense. And my last exhibition was called Black Boy Fly as a whole. And so I decided to name that particular artwork Black Boy Fly because it kind of captured everything that show represented. And I think as well that exhibition is like a chapter in my life that was like, it's just opened so many doors and put me in so many places and so many positions I never would have imagined. So whenever I see that artwork, like I just remember, I guess, that changing point and figuring out myself and finding my own identity and finding my purpose as well. There weren't really any starting points, or there weren't really any galleries I could go to, or there wasn't any like blueprint, like there was nowhere to look. And it was kind of just diving into something purely just based on faith and being like, okay, I can do this. And of course, like when I started, I had this big plan. I was like, oh, I want to do this and this and this with the art. But you know, everyone around you, they won't always see that, and they won't always notice it at first. So I think the first like 6 or 7 months that I was painting, like I didn't tell anyone. It was just me making what I wanted to make, finding the opportunities that made sense to me. And once things started gaining traction, I started letting people in and saying, oh, I'm doing this really cool thing through my art. And, you know, gradually they start to see it and be like, oh, this is sick. Or, oh, I've never known art could be used in this way. This is quite interesting. And it's been very similar even up until now. For me, each painting is like a timestamp. So it's an exact moment, or what I was feeling or what was happening around me at that moment. And that could be even a conversation that was had earlier that day. It could be the song that I'm listening to while I'm painting, or it could just be like, I guess whatever comes to mind. And I guess the best part about that for me as an artist is like, anytime I see a work, like it just lets me know where I was at that exact moment in time, and like what was really resonating with me, or like why, like what I was thinking. And I think that keeps it interesting. So like, hopefully later in my career, when I look back at all my exhibitions, I can say, oh, at this time, this is what I was thinking about a lot. At this time, this is what I was thinking about a lot. And it just gives me like different memories like across points of my life, which I think is really cool. And that's why I really enjoy doing what I do. So I've always wanted to travel for art. So if I could just go to different cities and like experience it and meet different people and learn about their creative scene and just learn from that energy there as well. I guess a crazy one, like I really want to like design like an airplane type thing for like Qantas, like just design the entire plane. Or I want to be in a space where like designing stuff for the Olympics, like just big platforms that everyone's seeing. Because I think art can really be, the boundaries can be pushed so far. There's so many possibilities, and like, of course, like our first instinct is always like paintings on the wall or like in a gallery space. But you know, that's something that I want to do as well. But alongside that, I want to be just in different spaces and really just showing people like art can be so much more than just a couple of paintings here and there. And it would just be crazy to see like kids who are into art or just like have been passionate about art to see something on that platform. Like it's one of those events where it's kind of like the whole world stops at once to focus on one theme. And I think that's, you know, I feel like that's really where creativity and showing your ideas is such a great opportunity, especially as a young African Australian. Because yeah, again, before, like 20 years ago, Australia looked so different. And it's like, now you're seeing the young African kids growing up and they're the ones making change, and they're really trying to progress Australia and show a whole different side. And I think it'll be cool if we can do that on big platforms as well, and just really just, I guess, uplift the country as a whole and show something special. The name for the exhibition is Kioni, which is a Swahili word with quite a few like different meanings. One is mirror. Another one is like see me or look at me. And a more recent one I've seen is someone who comes from nowhere as well. And I think for my journey that's really resonated. Like I remember I picked up art just for the sake of it. Like I'm self-taught as well. I didn't go to art school. Like I just liked to make things. And I remember when I first came onto the scene in Canberra, people were like, yo, where did you come from? Like it was like one year, like it was just the art schools and people with art backgrounds. And then I kind of just pop up and start finding opportunities here and there. And it's just kind of continued that way. But when they hear art, they think of something that's strictly prestigious or something that's not welcoming to everyone or not inviting. Like they think of galleries or seeing works which they can look at but they can't touch. And I guess the main thing that I do through my art is just showing people like it's for everybody. Like if you want to touch a canvas or you want to hold a canvas, like go for it. Like there's no rules here. And I think in general art can be anything. Like it's not only in the galleries, it can be what you do on a daily basis. It could be the clothes that you wear or the clothes that you're interested in. Like I guess like every day people interact with art in different ways, and it's always around us. So it's one artist, it's Mark Rocco, which is very well known for having like very simple artworks where it's just like one base color and then maybe like one or two boxes which are different colors just over the canvas, and that was it. Just very simple. I guess the big thing for me is just understanding like why it was such a deal at the time, like because those works were selling for millions, and it was kind of transitioning from works which were so detailed and so much was happening to somebody doing the complete opposite and just keeping it simple. A quote that I saw a while ago was that a great artist is somebody who captures a generation as a whole. And that's the role of a visual artist, is to capture, I guess, the time, to capture the interests, to capture the people, like to capture in a specific moment in time in its pure essence, like in one place. And, you know, when people see it, they should feel like, for one, like they understand the time that the artist was from, but it should also be like a timestamp. So like 100 years from now, you should be able to look back at a canvas and say, this was this moment in time. This is what that generation cared about. This is why, like this person represents that for this generation. I think anyone who's ever inspired me, like that's always the goal. Like, I guess I've always wanted to be in a position where I could say like, there are people who gave me the courage and the strength to pursue art in the first place. And like I would hope that I can work hard enough to at least give them a work or for them to have it. So like that's people like, it's always been like Kendrick Lamar. So my last exhibition was named after one of his songs. Jay-Z's another one because he collects art. Like just in these spaces where I get the opportunity to tell people like, yeah, you changed my life. Like this is why I pursue it. I think that's the key one. And then like, I guess museums around the world, like just places that I'm like, yo, why am I here? Like, how did I get here? Like that energy. So yeah, that would be cool. For the younger self, it's just keep doing what you're doing. Like it'll work out or it'll make sense one day. So yeah.